Gwen Stacy is a character that is beloved by many Spider-Man fans. Many people love her mainly for the impact that she has for Peter's character after her death. The death of Gwen Stacy has become such an important part of Spider-Man's lore and culture that it's impossible to take it away from him. However, there was one show before its cancellation that never actually got to properly tell their Gwen Stacy storyline. That is, of course, the infamous Spectacular Spider-Man. Now, I've made a few videos recently on Spectacular Spider-Man, so it might seem like I'm trying to beat a dead horse, but trust me, this is one last thing that I really want to talk about. What would have happened to Gwen Stacy in Spectacular Spider-Man, and what direction for the story were they actually going in? Let's talk about how Gwen Stacy was one of the most underutilized characters in that show. But before we get to that, I just want to mention, if you guys love Spider-Man content, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're so close to 30,000 subscribers. I would love if we could push to get that goal this year. That would be absolutely awesome. So if you're new around here, make sure you're subscribed. What are you waiting for? Gwen's character in Spectacular Spider-Man, I think, was building to something rather special. Building to a massive ultimatum in Peter's life, accumulating that everything seasons 1 and 2, potentially even season 3, was building up towards. Building to something that Peter had to learn from. The obvious lesson that Peter would have learned is that Gwen would have been killed, right? Potentially by the Green Goblin or another villain in Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery. However, Greg Weisman, one of the many creators behind the show, has said that he wouldn't have actually killed Gwen during the show's run. Whether this was because Spectacular Spider-Man was a kid's show, or whether it was a more personal reason for Weisman himself, we're not so sure, but we know that that was going to be the choice that he would have made for the character. Gwen was not going to die. So, what would have happened to Gwen? Assuming that Gwen wouldn't have died, what would have the original story for Gwen and Peter been by the end of the show's run? Many fans believed that they would end up together, that this would be the time where Peter and Gwen finally succeeded as a couple, even get married with one another. Many fans have expressed their excitement for this possibility, many people believing that Spectacular Spider-Man was the show to finally go through with this, and to finally have Peter end up with Gwen come the end. However, Greg Weisman once again has confirmed that Peter and Mary Jane would have ended up together by the end of the show, and even married, similar to the comics. So if Gwen wasn't going to die, but she also wasn't going to end up with Peter, then what was her story building to? And this is where I believe Spectacular Spider-Man was really doing something quite special. I think they were going to subvert our expectations and do something a little different with the character, but also something that I think works equally as well as her death. Throughout seasons 1 and 2, it's obvious that there is a love between Peter and Gwen. The kiss at the end of season 1, the almost kiss during season 2, and then finally accepting their love for one another at the end of the season in Final Curtain. Only then, for when Norman dies, Harry emotionally manipulates her into staying with him instead of dating Peter. This frustrated a lot of fans at first, as it was clear that this was the main relationship Weisman and co were building up to throughout the series. And it was even worse that the show got cancelled because we never actually got to see it. And even though Peter and Liz shippers will have their fans, Peter and Gwen was clearly meant to be the main relationship dynamic throughout the series. A Reddit user by the name of Pompous Dude had this to say about their relationship, and I think this quote here perfectly summarizes what fans thought about Peter and Gwen in the show. It was really cute, but Peter's moronic behavior in season 2 really turned me off the relationship. There are ways to write a love drama without your main character being an incentive dip. You don't need a love triangle, but if you want it, you can have it in less frustrating ways. I personally hate that by the end of the series, Gwen is forced to pity date Harry, while wanting to be with a guy that ignored her all season after a kiss. And to be honest with you, he's completely right. While this is obviously to incentivize more relationship drama as the show needs tension and character conflict, I believe personally this was done intentionally to foreshadow Gwen's eventual end during this show. The idea that Peter and Gwen's relationship almost came so close but never actually happened on several occasions, I think was something that Weisman was toying with the entire time. He didn't want us to get Gwen and Peter's relationship on a silver platter. That's why he constantly either almost gave it us or didn't give it us at all when it seemed so incredibly obvious that that was the direction that they were going in. During every twist and turn, Peter and Gwen's relationship always gets in the way of something, and Peter's naivety, possibly the unwillingness to be honest with her about who he truly is, would have possibly been the final straw in their relationship actually coming to fruition. Spider-Man would have been the final thing that would have gotten in the way, just as it was being hinted at during the first 2 seasons. If Peter wasn't Spider-Man, maybe him and Gwen would would have worked out. And thus, this subverts the expectations of the audience that Gwen is to die, when in fact, it's something a lot more heartbreaking than that. Peter's unwillingness to be honest with her as to who he was during the first 2 seasons would have led to the regret that he missed out on the chance to date the girl of his dreams. And yeah, Gwen is still alive, but Peter can't have her, and that's why it would be heartbreaking. It's not the death that we'd all come to expect. It's the same sort of story, it's the same sort of lesson, but portrayed in a different manner. And I believe, personally, this is the direction they were going in if Gwen wasn't to die. Personally, that's a really, really good story. And I'm so mad that we never got to see this play out in real time because the show got cancelled. There was so much potential for this version of Gwen Stacy, so much story potential that they had under their belts, but they never could actually use it. I also just want to mention, as a quick side note as well, that this would have been the perfect introduction for a Peter and MJ relationship as well. As we know, Wiseman likes to follow the comics almost to a T as a blueprint. One of the major early MJ stories is her finding out Peter's secret identity. Assuming the Gwen and Peter story was leading to some kind of Peter not being honest with Gwen about being Spider-Man, then MJ and Peter would have probably been the exact opposite. Their relationship would be a complete counteract of Peter and Gwen, as the reason as to why Peter couldn't be with her is because he's Spider-Man. However, if MJ was to find out that Peter was Spider-Man early in their relationship, that would completely eliminate that aspect of that relationship and completely set up a new dynamic, which would have been cool. Either way, I really wish we got to see this version of Gwen Stacy. It is really, really sucky that we never got to see her, because they were building up to something really, really special. I also made a similar sort of video on Mary Jane Watson. You can go watch that as well. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care and peace.